Dave, and a nice conclusion there. Councillor Baker.
Thanks, Dave, and I love the aspiration, and I support your view on the funding model. Just 3 quick questions for me. So, in regard to the Pairata and Drury stations, has there been any change? I asked this last time, I'll keep asking. Any change to the specs, and in particular in terms of the number of day 1 park and ride?
No, there hasn't been at this stage. With having got agreement, well, having gone through the litigation on Ngakaroa, we now have a much greater certainty of what our cost structure is being at the moment. So we're sitting down and we're actually reviewing scope for each station with AT. Prior to that, I had a very large sum sitting just called Ngakaroa with a big question beside it. I can now allocate that and be a little bit more definitive on the numbers.
Cool, thanks. Any update, I suppose, on the upgrade Pipikurita Otahu?
At the moment, that segment isn't funded. We put a bid up to Wakatahi. Well, actually, Auckland Transport put the bid up because we can't bid to Wakatahi for a sum of money. That was turned down, but Wakatahi, again, to their credit, made available all the headroom that they had available for that, which is the $75 million. That gets the inner thing. We are working with Auckland Transport to resubmit a bid for the missing elements.
Thanks. And just my last question in regards to the emerging plan, are you looking at, is there consideration, as they've done in Wellington with the Manawatu and Wairarapa, to the battery electric hybrids in terms, and whether would a hybrid like that open up Swanson to Helensville, etc., if we went down that track instead of electrification, and the same with Mission Bush? I see that out there in the future plans.
Absolutely. So we are part of the evaluation team with Greater Wellington. Our role is to help them get the train into the Wellington network. Our second role is to say, can we ensure that whatever train is purchased has the ability, instead of running on 1500 volt and battery, to run at a 25,000 volt and AC current and battery as well. So suitable for Hamilton, suitable for Helensville, Swanson, suitable basically anywhere that feeds into Auckland.
Thank you.
Councillor Bartley.
Oh, thank you. My question is about Onehunga and the Avondale to Southdown to Avondale line. So is there any work happening to try and find alternates besides what's proposed with that line going through the Onehunga community?
We've looked in the past at could we run it up parallel to State Highway 20 and then sort of tunnel through at the base of Hillsborough, coming out some point west of Mount Roskill. It's challenging. We're looking at options to how much of it we can bury as opposed to run through the community through Onehunga. We can't tunnel it, but we could bury a reasonable chunk of it. To me, the story is this though. If it was just a freight train line running through that area, I can see a significant thing of opposition because people, despite the fact it's been there for a long time, just won't want that. But that's not the vision we are. What are we trying to do? That's not the vision we're selling. The vision we're selling, which is the right one, is to say it's actually a passenger and freight line. So we're trying to create a third point of concentration through there. So there's not much point having a passenger line which doesn't go anywhere near the population. We know it's going to be a challenge. We know there's going to be opposition to it, and we've just got to work our way through it.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Bartley. Councillor Dalton.
Thank you. This will test my listening skills. The loop at Manukau, the solution, so people don't need to go back to Papatoetoe to go south. Is that, because this is a long-term plan, does that feature anywhere in the long-term planning?
No, it doesn't at the present moment. Our view is that the alternative, that would require the demolition and the removal of Ports of Auckland and the City Port, a CT area at Wiri. And in our view, in this plan, and others will have different ones, that stopping at Puanui and getting a train is no different from what you do in 101 urban metros around the world, that sometimes you just have to change trains. I think it would be a struggle to make a business case that turning out of Manukau to head south would be a major benefit, as opposed to using existing infrastructure and just getting off one train and on another.
Okay, thank you. Makes sense.
Councillor Darby?
Thanks, Dave. Thanks for this good update. Couple of areas. I took the Southern Line recently, and coming out of Britomart, and for probably my entire journey, I was just struck by the Technicolor blight of graffiti. It was just everywhere. It really stunned me. Even on your own rolling stock around Wiri, just absolutely smothered. What's the plan to address that? It just doesn't look good.
It looks terrible. No, it doesn't just look good. It looks terrible. What's the plan? Keep cleaning it. There's no. I've never seen that there is a permanent solution to that. I mean, I've heard anecdotally that there's a website that goes around that says when someone's cleaned up graffiti, there's actually a notification, WhatsApp or something, that says, here's a clean surface for painting. To my way, an intractable urban problem. The more we can actually paint murals and stuff like that, obviously we've done it in the things, the more we can have public art, and that tends not to be vandalised. But I don't have a long-term plan or a long-term ability to deal with that graffiti problem. Our wagons were less than 2 days old when someone burrowed under the fence, did a reverse of escaping from a prisoner of war camp, and came in and graffitied them. It's
a big challenge. Look, we could have a bigger conversation about that, I guess. But the other one is just, this is a lot about the network today. What's the condition of the rolling stock? You know, the carriages that take containers and the numbers and all of that. As we grow the network and improve the network, and as the Mayor has outlined, you know, attracting more freight from road to rail, we need the rolling stock. Can you give us a bit of an update as to what the condition and the numbers of the rolling stock are outside locomotives? You know.
Okay. Well, in terms of the wagons are actually in pretty good shape. We have replaced now 1,700 of them, and the worst of them have gone. We've got another 1,400 to do, which we'll be doing over a period of 4 years. So they will be relatively new, new by the context of New Zealand history, wagons in good condition. We've got a very good basic product now. So I don't see, if there's the demand, we can afford to buy more wagons. I guess I'll put it there. And the rolling and the quality itself will be much better than it's been there in the past. In terms of locos, we've got the order with Spain for the Stadler DL's locomotives, and we're closing in on an order with a couple of suppliers for the new shunts. And also, so councillors are aware, we have entered into contract and we have the first designs coming out for putting ETCS on the freight and other trains to avoid the safety issues.
Councillor Lee?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Gordon. Can I just ask you about the RNR, the formation rebuild we've discussed in the past? How's that going? There are rumours around the marketplace that there's been a cost blowout and that the ground situation is more complicated than originally planned. Can you give us some assurance about that program, please?
Well, I can certainly confirm that the ground conditions are worse than what our geotech board suggested. Weaker, and the summary total is weaker and more widespread. We remain on track to complete the full scope of works on the Eastern Line, and we remain on track to open that after Christmas, after this coming Christmas. We are funded sufficiently to continue works out as far as Mount Albert, and I would hope that actually ends up being to New Lynn, and we have sufficient funding to do in the Papakura to Pukekohe section. Where we're applying for additional funding is for the section from Otahuhu to Papakura, although there's not a lot of dig out to be done there. We've done most of that before, and in the section wherever we end, whether it be Mount Albert or Newlyn through to Swanson.
Okay. That would be essential if you're going to create a new NIMT. I take it getting that job done. Can I ask you? You've heard the presentation from CRL Limited and the complexities of operations and high-tech tunnel and so on. Would Kiwi Rail be in a position to resume the passenger operations contract that was taken off it in 2004 in order to reduce too many cooks, if you like, and to simplify the efficiency of the operation?
Okay, challenging question because our board hasn't turned its mind to that, but I'll use the correct language. It wasn't taken off us. We were in a competitive tender and a party did a better bid, so it was, the better team won. We have in the past expressed the desire to get back into the passenger world. We've certainly expressed desires under previous AT organisations to work much more as an integrated above and below railway. We actually approached officials at the time and were told that the competitive tender model is the model that stays. I honestly can't give you a statement to say if would Kiwi Rail be up for being involved in passenger in Auckland again. I can't give that, Councillor, because I just don't have the decision from the Mayor, from the Chair.
Just to put you straight on the history, the Kiwi Rail or its predecessor Transrail did not compete for the contract with Connex, which became Veolia, which became Transdev. Your predecessor company was paid out a lot of money, and if it was to bid for the contract it was paid to get out of, it would have been high fast. But it's quite a tragedy for Auckland in terms of vertical integration and efficiency of the network, in my view. So I hope Kiwi Rail can resume that operation in the future.
Thanks, Councillor. I wasn't aware of the history.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Lee. Councillor Henderson.
Thank you. Very quick one. Congratulations on the Henderson Station funding. That's fantastic news. It's really wonderful. It does say here works needed to stay within the budget level. I was wondering if I could ask you a bit more about that to expand upon that. Thank you.
At the moment, the cost estimate is greater than what we're funded. Is the headline. We have to make a call between ourselves and AT of how much work we do rail side and how much work we do in the station, and one of those is going to suffer more than the other to stay within.
That's cool. That's fine, thank you. And what I suggest is, if or when you're briefing the local board, just have me along, and I'll come and say good day as well. Thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Sure.
A final question, Councillor Newman.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Gordon. I just want to go back to what Councillor Darby was asking about. Currently, Kiwi Rail, I think, indicates that it doesn't have the funding with respect to graffiti removal. At the present, it's the owner's responsibility to tackle graffiti on their property boundary, but if they want to enter the rail corridor, they risk a $10,000 fine. If a member of the public wishes to clean graffiti from within the corridor, they must apply to you, Kiwi Rail, for a permit, whereby Kiwi Rail will assess the request and coordinate the permit. There's no guarantee in relation to any attempt to remove graffiti, noxious weeds inside the rail corridor, nothing like that. I mean, you're coming today and I don't think you've got a solution to that, but do you have any sort of work stream within Kiwi Rail to actually think about how one could actually facilitate our contractors and adjacent property owners from being able to get into the corridor to clean out some of this mess, because it is just endemic, as Councillor Darby said, but you don't have a solution.
Yeah, well, definitely I don't have a solution. We have in the past, particularly in Wellington, we've had enclosures where we've had community things in there and clean up. But the problem, as I see it, is this. Most of the corridor is quite narrow, so if you're working in there, you're close to trains, and you're working close to 25,000 volts. And graffiti's up high, involves things like ladders and all the rest of that. The balance we have to strike, and I know it is a challenging one, is do we let people, we can't just let people on, they have to be protected from that. I would like to see it easier to clean up. I'd like to see more community action to do that. And I certainly agree with you. I'd like to see a lot more of the actual corridor just looking in a tidier position. But regrettably, I've got a certain amount of money to spend on the Auckland network. I spend some of it on graffiti removal. I could probably spend 5 times what I got on graffiti removal. I'm just not confident I'm going to get something that endures for any length of time. It's a defeatist attitude, I know, but it's very challenging when you've got an adjacent building that's been graffitied and it's right on the corridor. No one sees it because most of the buildings face the street, and we're facing the back of these things. So, sorry, it's a bit of a dumb answer, but there's.
Yes,
I'm not seeing a lot.
I mean, look, I don't think anybody's asking you to spend your entire budget on the graffiti removal. What I'd like you to do is to enable people to get in there to remove the graffiti. And I'd like you to provide advice on that. If you can't today, then if you could explain why in slower time, because there is the means to be able to do this. But currently, we're facing a bit of a defeatist approach, and I'd like to try and address that. So I'll write to you about that, and I'll write to the shareholder minister, but I'll be very grateful if you could turn your mind to that, because as Councillor Darby has said, this corridor is atrocious at the present, and you don't have a solution in place, but I think one needs to be developed. Thank you.
Okay, look, and I'll take the criticism as being a fair one, and I will do what I can to respond to your question.
Okay, thanks, Dave. We appreciate that. Okay, this item's been moved by Councillor Baker. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Dalton. Don't think there's any need to discuss anything. Thanks for the update, Dave, and it's good to get this continuity going too in terms of responses. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks. So the folks, to try and get these last 2 items in before lunch, and that is we've had the transport related presentations. We have now got just the 2 to go, one from Watercare on their capital program, and then one from our own Healthy Waters team. Craig McElroy will be talking on its capital program. So we'll welcome Steve Webster, Chief Infrastructure Officer at Watercare, to lead off on the presentation.
Thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to present to the committee today. What I would like to do is just in 3 parts really. The flood, with quick talk about our flood response, have a conversation about our capital program in total, and then just touch on some projects. And they are only some of our projects. As you've just seen from a number of presentations, there's a lot of infrastructure being delivered in Auckland, and it is quite difficult to talk about every component of what we're all doing. So really, we're just taking a snapshot of some of the things that we are up to as an organisation. I'll talk about a flood recovery first. I'll just go straight to this slide. I'm assuming my assumption is the slides have been looked at from everyone, but this is the summary. Since the last presentation we gave here, we've found more jobs, more issues with the flood response, and they are continuing to surface. Excuse the pun. Up as we find more issues associated with weather, and as we get rain, we have more issues arrive as well because of the saturation of the soils in Auckland and the impact on our assets. So we've had about 22 new issues identified since we presented last at this committee. In place, we've got 13 million of business cases, as you can see, number of business cases in place, but importantly, 51 projects have been resolved and issues have been resolved. So they now have been completed, fixed, and the system is continuing to operate. Areas we've got some major or significant issues. Muriwai, I think we're all aware of. We're still tankering into Muriwai. We're tankering into the network so people can operate and utilise their water and waste, or their water, sorry, from the system, from the network system. We are now looking at what we're going to do with a replacement water treatment plant in Muriwai. We will be replacing the water treatment plant. It's highly unlikely that we'll replace it in the same place it is today. It's in a vulnerable position, and we are not prepared to spend money or put an asset in a position that's vulnerable. So we need to find another place for that asset. It's a small treatment plant. It really shouldn't take too long to get in place, but the biggest issue we will have is around property. Finding a location and then consenting and getting that moving, and to enable that treatment plant to be built. That picture up there is what's called Quinn's Bridge up in the Waitakaris. You can see the extent of some of the work we're needing to do, large landslips. This raw water pipe leading to the Huia water treatment plant was at risk. Significant slips in this area, extremely saturated soils. So we're doing a pretty major repair on that. So some of our repairs are significant repairs like this, building new treatment plant, down to just repairing some pipes. So the number of those projects have multiple types of projects and sizes of projects associated with them. In all, it's going well. Probably our biggest challenge is insurance. Getting the insurance across the line and getting insurance payments, but that's the same as any emergency or any disaster like this. Insurance is always an issue. The capital program itself, you're aware of the size of it. You've just heard a number of large capital programs that are happening in Auckland. I wanted to give an indication of the sequencing of our projects or our program. We have $3.7 billion worth of work in feasibility, so working through to approval at the moment. So that's work we're doing at the moment to enable us to deliver that capital program. 1.1 billion of work in contracted work and design, and another 1.3 billion of contracted work to be completed in construction. So that's not the whole construction. That's what's from today's date what we're contracted to deliver. So for Central Intercept, for instance, that project is about that size, but a lot of the money has already been spent. We have a portion yet to be spent, and that's what that number is. So the program is a significant program, and we manage it as you would expect by phase, and we understand each phase and what we're doing in each step of that infrastructure program. There's about 170 projects in that program. That excludes the flood program, so there's a significant number of projects underway today. So 170 projects underway today. What's our delivery track record like? Pretty good. We deliver 103% of our AMP on average across those years. We had a spike during the drought. We had some dollars that weren't in our AMP that we needed to deliver to provide resilience for Auckland, but from an organisation, and we're really proud of how we deliver our infrastructure. And I'll be really blunt. 103% is a pretty outstanding compared to what we see in other parts of the country when it comes to infrastructure spend. Now, this is a market engagement we currently have in place. We have two kind of components of our infrastructure program. We have our large projects, which we call over 15 million, and they go up to 1.3 billion. And then we have a significant number of projects that are under that $15 million. And we call it asset upgrades and renewals. So asset upgrades and renewals are small projects, such as small treatment plants or small upgrades on treatment plants. The renewals of our systems and our network, so renewals on treatment plants and also renewals of pipelines. So that's large pipes to small pipes, the pipes in your street that go into your house. So this asset upgrades and renewals encompasses all of that. We're in the market at the moment for about $2.1 billion worth of work, and we've received bids for that, and they arrived a week ago, and we're in the middle of evaluating those now, and we're looking to go live on those contracts in December of this year. So this is the next step in water care, locking in the delivery of our infrastructure program. It doesn't mean we haven't been delivering this work. What we're doing is we've got a new mechanism in place which will enable us to deliver it better, faster and cheaper. And that's fundamentally what our job is. So that's the profile, the spend profile. It's once again, it's a reasonable value of work over a long period of time. And as you see, we have renewals and upgrades that continue fundamentally forever. And with a large, asset base like we have, we need to continue to renew our assets and upgrade our assets. Those are the program delivery groups that we've gone to the market for. Not going to go into detail. There's 6 program delivery groups, and so there'll be a number of contracts associated with this $2.1 billion worth of work, and we're set up to deliver that as of January, February of next year, once we've contracted in December of this year. One of the important things of this is what's at the bottom there, the Māori Supply Network. We made a decision at this time to put in place a Māori Supply Network that can supply some services across our whole infrastructure program. And we've been astounded at how successful this looks as it will be. We put out a market sounding. We had a lot of response to it. The network started to self-organise, which we're really, really comfortable with. We wish other people would do that as well. And we have formal responses from Māori, the network suppliers for us in the marketplace that we will lock in, and they will be available to all our contractors and to Watercare to deliver services for us. The services are initially traffic management, landscaping, electrical, plant and labour hire, scaffolding and civils. We plan to expand that, but we needed to start somewhere. So we just set that into the marketplace. Really proud of the fact that we've done this. It's part of our target of 5% of our spend through Māori-owned businesses, and this will make give us a massive edge on delivering that KPI for our organisation. So let's just go through a few project updates. Some of these are updates that you saw last time. Obviously, we can't have an update without the Central Interceptor. We're halfway through the tunnel, huge achievement. We've landed at May Road, which is 50% of the main tunnel. The Southern Link sewers, you can see up to PS25 there, is now complete. A number of the other works associated with that are well advanced as well. And work is progressing on every site on the Central Interceptor site. So project is running to plan, and it's moving it like we want it to, and we will be finishing up in Grey Lynn when will we be finishing Grey Lynn? Early 2027 or 2027. Yeah, the project will finish in 2027. The Northwest scheme, so this is the scheme up in Warkworth. We talked last time, we're investing about $350 million, so this has progressed significantly since the last presentation. And just got some photos here of where we're up to. Last presentation, you really would have seen bare boxes, concrete boxes. We're now filling those boxes up with plant and equipment, and we'll be commissioning that plant and equipment over the next year or so. And so once again, we're on track to meet the consent for that whole Warkworth area, and that will support cleaning up the Maharangi River, that harbour area, enable the growth in the area as well, and replace the current wastewater treatment plant at Snells, which fundamentally requires replacement, and therefore we're building a new wastewater treatment plant at Snells. Bit of an issue with the order of these slides, so I'll just go to this one. This is next in the order. Redoubt Road Reservoir. Didn't talk about this last time. This is a reservoir we're building in Redoubt Road. It draws water, or water is sourced from the Waikato River and the Ardmore treatment plant. This improves the resilience for Auckland. So this is a 45 million litre reservoir that's being built there, and the whole intent of that project is to improve the resilience of our water supply for Auckland. So if we have an issue downstream or upstream from the reservoir, we have more time of storage in our system to supply water to the city. The first two reservoirs, the first reservoir is at the reservoir, and the design of the second reservoir is a project worth about 85 million. It'll be finished in June of next year. back to Southwest, this is worth just touching on. There's a transfer pipeline going from Warkworth through to Snells. This is our third tunnel in a row of this technology. And this is how we are treating our infrastructure program. We're driving the program as a rolling 10-year program. We're optimising that program so that we can do things like this. We can bring new technology into New Zealand. We can then run that technology, invest in it, and then run project after project after project, as opposed to what we often do in New Zealand is we don't do that at all. We run a project and then we stop and then we bring some people back years later and then we start another project. We just have to get better at this. This particular technique has won a world record, won a world tunnelling prize. It was one of our people went to Milan to receive. It's a stunning piece of technology and it's working very, very well for us. Right now, that is actually delivering that tunnel at twice our budgeted speed. So we've got to a point where we've got a crew and equipment that is operating very, very efficiently. That's how we should be managing infrastructure. The Snells wastewater treatment plant has progressed well since you saw it last, and we're on target to finish that within the consent timeframe. This, I'm sure, is of interest. Queen Street, we've got a wastewater diversion project. We're working very closely with the Midtown group, with the council group, to ensure that we minimise the disruption on Queen Street. As already been mentioned, there's been a lot of disruption in the centre city, in the Midtown for a number of years. We are working very, very closely with Auckland Council to ensure that we minimise the disruption, but it is an asset that needs to be replaced, needs to be put in place. It's a tunnel. It's probably one of our more complex tunnels that we'll be building, even though we have a large tunnel in the Central Interceptor. This is in an area of the city that is, pretty unique, hard to manage, as the other projects understand. So we've got a lot of horsepower associated with the project to make sure that we deliver it on time and minimise the disruption. Papakura Water Treatment Plant opened on the 31st of August this year. That was delivered in 2 phases. There was a temporary plant as a drought response, and then a permanent plant was what we call stage 2. Was just completed and just opened and is now providing quality drinking water to Auckland and provides resilience for the Auckland water supply. And this is the Helensville Wastewater Treatment Plant is a treatment plant we've recently upgraded. Worth talking about because of the technology that's been put in place here. This is on the back of an innovation centre we have in Watercare. The person on the right-hand side there, Kevin, runs that innovation centre. We have a trial thermal hydrolysis plant at that innovation centre. We're doing some work on how we can run our digesters more efficiently and get more volume through them. But one of the other things that we have done and completed is what's called an MABR, which is a membrane aerated biofilm reactor. All right, there are very few of these in the world. We've been trialling this technology for a while. We've put it into Helensville, and we did it because of fundamentally the benefits we get from this technology. We use 50 to 80% less energy, so a significant reduction in energy use for treating wastewater. You can see 50% less CO2 equivalent emissions. I mean, that's a dramatic reduction in CO2 emissions. The majority of our operating emissions come from our wastewater treatment plants. So this technology helps to reduce those emissions. And importantly, the nutrient discharge, we have a design level of 10 megagrams. This is nutrient reduction or nitrate, ammonia nitrate. We had a target and a consent for 10. We're currently delivering 2. So a massive improvement in the quality of treated effluent that's going into our waterways. I'm very proud of this project. It's a technology that we did think whether we should patent this, but made a decision that that's not Watercare's role. So we're effectively releasing this into the wild. So anyone in the world can use this technology. And well, could be very good for Whangaparo. Yes, yes. So something that we have worked on, our innovation centre, and this technology is now, we've proven it to be successful and is in place. Another good thing, not that it's a large treatment plant in our scale of treatment plants, but on time, or under time and under budget. So, great outcome for quality and for the environment and for our budgets and our timeframes. So thank you.
Right, thanks, Steve. A lot happening on around the Auckland region in the world of water care. Councillor Newman.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Look, great to see the progress at Redoubt Road. I think the huge capacity there and the scale is quite something when you see it from nearby Redoubt and in the gardens. It's looking fantastic what you're delivering there. And also too, thanks for the water care treatment plant, getting that online. Good to get the Hayes Creek Dam water back into the network. When do you anticipate that water care is going to write to us with the scale of the price increase that Margaret's going to be foreshadowing? Because I think you're going to be forecasting significantly higher price increases, probably beyond which has been previously forecast. So what's the timing for getting that information?
We're working currently on a request from the council. I can't answer you what the time frame is. We've just had that request, so we're working on that now. So we can come back to you on that, Daniel.
Can you give me some sense as to the scale of movement in the asset renewal space in terms of how that's affecting your overall price path?
No, I can't.
Okay, all right. I'll touch base with Margaret, but it will be important because this asset program is very, very important. I totally support you, but it will have a material impact on your pricing tariffs. But thank you.
Councillor Ferry.
Thanks. Quick bouquet to the team doing the Central Interceptor work generally, but also specifically the open days. They've been holding them at a number of sites in my ward and doing a great job of telling the story. What I wanted to ask about was you said before there, Grey Lynn portion will be finished 2027, that's the last bit. Is any of the rest of it able to come online before, noting that was added in later, that extension?
Yes, yes, it can. So the projects that are broken into two halves. So the May Road, we've just had the breakthrough. That was, you would have seen the media of that. That's first half of the Central Interceptor will come online before the total project is online. So that will absolutely, and that enables us to access some of our other assets that currently we can't access and maintain or even inspect.
And so what's the timeframe looking like for that first half?
That's the end of 2024, early 2025.
Great, thank you.
Councillor Ferry. Councillor Hills.
Thank you, thank you, Chair. And first of all, just congrats to the team. It just shows the level of investment, that we've all been working on, and your teams have been working on. To see that line go up is phenomenal, and also bouquets to the teams working on throughout the storms and since then the floods. I could not believe the teams that were out at all hours addressing massive damage. So thank you for that. Few questions, just on the. And I know it's sensitive, but the Huia water treatment plant, obviously that has the ability to add 20 or 30 million litres a day more if we have a new plant, when there's water in the dams. But so I'm just still a bit confused about what the future is, or is it too hard to say?
Well, we are currently planning to replace the Huia water treatment plant. We're in the middle of a consenting process. That has been really difficult.
Okay.
And drawn out. Until that consenting process is finished, that is the kick-off of us designing and then constructing the treatment plant. So it is difficult for us to give you if you're looking for a time.
Yeah.
It really is a function of when we can get through the consenting.
Thank you. The pump stations, I know there's a lot of work going on the damaged pump stations on the shore, but also bringing forward potentially some of that. Do you have any details on the Waido and the I know the Alma one's kicking up again, but the Waido one, is there any new updates on?
Well, they're up and running. We are now.
Sorry, the replacement of the Waido one. I know you've done some.
I'll have to come back. That's a bit of detail that I don't have.
And just the level of detail that's smaller than the large ones. Councillor Dalton and I have been discussing the impending potential for drought with Amanda. But is there a increased planning budget around the leaks and potential leaks that will come with the dry land? I know we got on top of it really well a couple of years ago, but is that sitting underneath in the renewals or the AMP that you're going to have to start once this wetland starts drying up? You're going to have a heap of broken pipes and then likely a drought.
So the answer to that is yes. So is there increased budget? No, but the AMP allows for us to start replacing a number of those water pipelines, and what that will do ultimately is reduce the number of leaks and reduce the value of maintenance that's required on those assets. So yes, there is budget for improving and reducing for replacing assets. Therefore, we will reduce leaks. We also have operational budget for leak reduction as well. That is locked into our budgets as well. And we have a team that focuses on leaks.
Cool. No, I know that work's going on, but I'm glad to hear that will ramp up when it needs to. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Hills. We have got one item to get before lunch, so if we could just wrap it up here, Councillor Turner and Simpson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to say congratulations to Watercare. Thank you for your hard work. It's great to have a good story, good effort, and I know the challenges that the water sector is facing at the moment. So thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I had put in the sidebar that I wanted to move this or second it if I could. Thank you.
All right, we'll get you to move that, Councillor Turner. Finally, Councillor Simpson.
Yeah, I want to add my congratulations as well. Well done. Look, I'm just interested in the Muriwai situation. Obviously, it's not ideal. You haven't got a site. How are the water tankers going? Is it going to be fine? You coping? The people coping with, using the water from the tankers? And how long is all this going to take?
So the first answer to the first question: the tankers are going fine. The water's flowing, which is what we're here to do. The quality of water that's going into that system is the same quality that everyone else gets in Auckland. So that, we will not compromise on that at all. We cannot answer the question about when we will have the new treatment plant in place. That really is a function of, finding a location, getting that consented, finding a location, getting that consented, and then putting the treatment plant in place. What we will do is we will design the treatment plant prior to, in parallel with that, which is always a risk, but it's a small treatment plant, so we think that risk is very low.
You're confident what we've got operating with the tankers is doing its job?
Yes.
Thank you, Steve, for that excellent presentation. It's been moved by Councillor Turner, seconded by Councillor Fletcher. All those in favour? Okay, against? Carried. Thanks very much. Okay, final presentation. Unlucky 13 for you, Craig, coming up here. So the presentation has been provided, and Craig will run through it, and then we'll have a break. Welcome, Craig.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just trying to look for the clicker. You take the clicker.
It's sabotage. Must be some interdepartmental rivalry.
Just going to whiz through our budget for this year, talk a little bit about storm recovery and just focus on a few highlights. So that's just a high-level summary of our CapEx, 137 mil. Look, I won't go into each of the activities. You can read it for yourself. But what I will say is most of our projects actually deliver multiple outcomes. So they're the primary drivers, but typical projects will not only look to renew assets, we look at flood mitigation, growth, and water quality outcomes as part of the same project. So we pay equal attention to all of those key areas which drive our investment. And the other thing you'll note up there, of course, is that the huge amount of money that we spend in catchment and asset planning. that, to be honest, is the engine room of healthy waters. If we don't get our planning right, we haven't got a strong foundation on which to base all our projects on. And we do capitalise all of our catchment and asset planning, because we regard our asset management plan and our catchment management plans as key bits of IP that drive our business. Just a couple of recovery works that we've got underway at the moment. The College Hill renewal, 100-year pipe failed, had quite a lot of publicity, actually created quite a lot of international media attention. Tomo's a big topic at the moment. We're a little bit unlucky. We awarded the contract for renewal on the 17th of July, and the pipe collapsed on the 24th of July. So that's probably the ultimate in just-in-time management, but we just didn't get it quite right, because ideally we would have got there 6 months in advance so the pipe didn't fail at all. But this was a risk we knew about. We'd planned for it, and unfortunately nature got to us first. The other big project we've got underway at the moment in terms of our storm recovery work is work that we're doing in Greville Road. So we've had an Armco culvert fail adjacent to the road, but the bit under the road is okay at the moment. So we're looking at a tunnel solution. We're going to need to put in a new tunnel. The tunnel will have to be rerouted away from the landfill. It's about 15 metres deep, so quite a challenging job. We haven't finished the route assessment yet, which is why we've got quite a lot of variability on the indicative cost, between 9 and 15 mil on this particular job.
How big's the pipe?
The pipe's 2100 diameter. So we've got a number of separation projects underway at the moment. In Point Chev, we're forecasting to spend 9 million this year, but to put it into some context, it's actually a 78 million job in total, spread into 4 phases. And in Waterview, we're kicking off Waterview this year as well, only a small investment, this year 2 mil, but in total about $80 million. But what that highlights to me is that when we do separation works, they're incredibly expensive. So that's a nice segue really to the central interceptor extension from Greyland to Point Erin. So we've been working with Watercare now for the last 2 or 3 years, looking at the options we've got to provide good water quality outcomes around Herne Bay and St Mary's Bay, and the fact that the separation in those areas was going to be so expensive because of the topography and also massively disruptive to those local communities. So we've come up with a solution now where, by extending the CI tunnel from Greyland to Point Erin, that will provide for a far better outcome. It means that the separation work going future can be staged in relation to growth as it occurs, and the separation work that will be done by Healthy Waters will be around separating the road network out of the combined network, and then it'll be up to the private developers to connect their individual developments into the pipes. And we're doing that as a cost sharing with Watercare, and so that'll be $17 million this year, and that gets us, I think, substantially through the design process, and then obviously the contract award itself has been managed by Watercare. And the other project that we're kicking off is our Lower Khyber Pass Road, which is linked to the need to do separation adjacent to the University of Auckland site in Khyber Pass Road. And we're beginning that construction-wise in February next year, and that will be in total $11 million spread over this year and next year. Just briefly touching on making space for water, we're looking to spend about $6 million this year, and that's predominantly in 2 areas. We're doing feasibility studies and model upgrades on the 12 identified potential blue-green network areas, and we'd like to get those through to business case stage as quickly as we can, because that will help facilitate property acquisition as it relates to the Crown agreement by having business cases that are approved. Also, we're looking at focusing very quickly on storm intelligence or flood intelligence. I think it is imperative that we have a better warning system for the community, because we know that what we experienced in January this year, unfortunately, is going to happen again at some stage. And in an ideal world, we would have a alerting system to let the community know in advance exactly what was going on. Also looking at our ability with our work we've been doing in Rain Radar, not only to tell them what's going on now, to tell them what we think is going to happen in the next 6 hours. Now, if we can get this off the ground, this will be leading global work, and it's something that the team is extremely passionate about, and I think it's an incredibly important element of our overall program. So that's why we're making it a priority this year to get that business case worked through and really kick into that program of work. It's really what we call the flood equivalent of Safe Swim. Just haven't come up with a good name for it yet. So a couple of significant projects we've got starting this year. We have a big culvert upgrade in Pairata Road, and that's, as you see, $18 million spread over 2 financial years. And the other thing we're doing is a biological offset project in Blackgate Reserve, where we're pulling out that horrible concrete drain and replacing it with a natural stream environment with the appropriate planting and public access, etc. So the interesting thing about this project, of course, is that it's been funded by half of it's been funded by the private sector, because private sector needs environmental offsets in order to get their resource consents, but the other half is Healthy Waters, because we also have to get offsets for our projects, so we're not treated any differently to any other developer when it comes to our own projects. And the last thing, just highlighting, there's 5 big things that we've pretty much delivered last year, and they've just been finished off this year. So in Corbin Reserve, we have just got some tidying up to do now with the in Murillo Reserve, and we're looking to have work substantially completed this year, total cost of 39 mil. And the other good news about the Corbin Reserve project is we were able to facilitate work on the North Harbour number 2 water main in advance through this part of the site for water care, so that we didn't come in and cause a whole lot of disruption later on. So that was a really positive outcome we're able to deliver around that particular aspect. Ports of Auckland. This project's been a long time in the gestation and planning period, but I'm delighted to report in that we've pretty much substantially complete now with the work for Ports of Auckland. It's been a very significant piece of work, and we've got about $7 million worth of capital investment this year, which will take us through to conclusion. We effectively put a new tunnel through from the other side of the railway line all the way through to the harbour, and it was a massive risk that was sitting under port land with the condition of the existing pipe and the threat of partial collapse with impeding the crane operation in the ports area. So very significant project, and it's gone extremely well. Our clinker paste project is also due for completion in early September, so planning is ongoing at the moment, and that's a project that provides a new tunnel, and that tunnel is the I think that's the tunnel that's known as Prince's Twilight Superworm, which was named by the kids from the school. So created, and those are all the kids' handprints on the side of the tunnel. So hopefully we've got several budding engineers who will be keen to join Healthy Waters as an outcome of this, because we do believe in getting them young. I think it's really, really important. our Kitchener Road box culvert project is also due for completion this year, and it's a total cost of 8.3, just a little bit to finish this year. And so that's another project, and also Picton separation stages 1 and 2 also been completed this year, and that's going to reduce overflows to Wynyard Quarter and also significantly resolve flooding issues on Anglesea, Picton and Pratt Streets. So that's another good news story. And with that, I'm delighted to answer any questions. Kia ora.
Right. Thanks very much, Craig. A bit going on there as well. Questions? I don't think we've got Councillor Walker, and should just about do it.
Yeah, so a few really quick questions, Craig. As much and all as you've got all the blue-green stuff and what you had up on the earlier slide, in the Albany ward, there are a number of catchments, low-lying areas, Browns Bay, Long Bay, Marangi Bay, where you've got significant businesses, residents being affected by flooding. I've met with the people in Healthy Waters. Essentially, they're not doing anything because they say, well, a big flood event, the stuff that you're suggesting isn't going to make enough of a difference. But in between the massive flood event and lower level events, there are a number of things that could happen that could make a huge difference. So I'd really like to get some exploration around that circumstance in between and get back to some of these communities because, you know.
Look, what I can say is that we are absolutely committed to working with communities. One of our major program items is what we've labelled as community resilience, and that's about us working with the communities around what we can do to improve the situation going forward. So we're absolutely, totally committed to working with communities.
Okay.
There's no one that phones us that should be turned away. We really want to work with communities.
Just a supplementary question to that. Given that some of this work is going to involve flood intelligence, much of it will be around catchment management. You mentioned you can capitalise that. Does that make the funding circumstance easier than if it's coming out of OPEX?
Well, it means that we can do the amount of planning that needs to be done to deliver the outcome.
Okay.
So, and by the way, that has fully been validated through the audit process as being fit.
I don't have any issue with it.
So.
And my last question just goes to separation, and I understand what you're doing around the interceptors. But given that separation is highly desirable, we're talking about sewage out of the stormwater, can you get a recovery on that through development contributions through the consenting process as the intensification comes on? Is that the plan?
So obviously the growth areas that are developed do attract development contributions, which then helps fund the stormwater renewals that will be required to facilitate the separation. I think the big difference with a growth-related approach is that it means that the developer then is responsible for hooking up to the stormwater system in the road, as opposed to all of that being paid for by council, which has happened in historic separation projects where we pay for
so
the
just quickly, is the separation costed into the DCs?
All of the DC calculations take into account the relative investments in each of the areas. So that's why, that's how it's designed to work. You know.
All right, about 5 minutes to go, and we've got 3 questions. Simpson, Newman, and Councillor Filipaina.
Thanks, Chair. Craig, well done. Can I ask you, please, how much impact have the storm events had on your work program that you originally planned? In other words, you know, and emergency works, for example, College Road is emergency work, but some of the other emergency works as a result of the flooding, how much has that affected on your original planned work program for the year?
It's had some influence on our program, but I think overall we've still because we're at a very interesting stage of our life cycle, you'll notice that we had a number of big capital projects that were finishing this year anyway. So the real focus on this year was always going to be on planning for the future, getting all of our business cases prepared. Because if you go back a year or two with when water reform was first mooted, there was talk of massive increases in capital delivery programs from day one for the new water entities, and talk of the Healthy Waters budget doubling or tripling or whatever. So we obviously needed to be prepared for that scenario if it came to bear. And so we've put a huge amount of focus into building up our back block of approved business cases, getting on with design work. So for whatever future we were aiming for, we'd be prepared. And then what's come in the middle of all of this is the flooding, of course. And so, but it really hasn't changed the approach that we always wanted to do anyway, which is to get ahead of the game when it comes to business cases and design work.
Thanks. And just a supplementary, on the water quality targeted rate work program, have the floods affected any delivery on that work?
No, they haven't.
Councillor Newman?
Yeah, Craig, a quick one. Thank you very much for the good work that is progressing with respect to Blackgate. I'm just curious, and if it's been referred to me before, I apologise, but there's a lot of concrete in that drain which is being replaced. What do you do with the waste?
I'd have to
The concrete
look.
itself.
I'd have to defer to the team for the detail, Daniel. I'm just not familiar with what's specifically happening, but I'm sure it'll be treated as a valuable resource and not treated as waste material, because a lot can be done with concrete now, as you know, with using it for all sorts of things by grinding it up, and particularly because there won't be any significant reinforcing in that concrete at all. So it'd be ideal for breaking up and using as road aggregate or something. It's definitely got a value associated with it.
There are companies all over Auckland doing that.
Can you come back to me via email and just let me know what the plan is for that that material, because I think you're right, and there's more use for it.
Yeah. All right, we got that.
Thank you.
Okay. Final question, Councillor Filipina.
Thank you, Chair. Very quickly, Craig, thank you so much for all the work and even the continued work around Māngere with the block stormwaters for some of the development. So thank you for that. Craig, my partai is looking at your work for your work program moving forward. Are there any capital works for within Māngere or the Manukau ward?
Yeah, so we're looking at a major initiative around Māngere, with working in conjunction with Kaingora around the blue-green opportunity around Tiaranga, which is one of the, as you know, the most severely impacted areas in the storm event. So yeah, so a lot of work will be happening in that area. Kia ora.
Thank you, Chair. If nobody's moving or seconded, I'll be on the list for those. Kia ora.
Okay, thank you. So moved by Councillor Filipina, seconded by Councillor Simpson. A quick comment, Councillor Baker?
Yeah, so just a quick comment from me, and I just want to acknowledge and name publicly a couple of your staff who have been absolutely outstanding in terms, and so Doug Pirini, who not only an outstanding decathlete years ago, but is an outstanding member of staff, and what he's been doing in the community down south, and Kingy, I think his last name's Hui, but Kingy and what they're doing, they've sorted out a couple of issues that have been years and years and years in the making, and some great leadership, and I guess just to you and your leadership team, they're enabled and empowered to work in that way because of the leadership that comes down, mate. So I just want to acknowledge it publicly because I think it's been really good and really, really well appreciated in some of the communities out south. So thanks.
Right, a nice way to finish off with acknowledgement. So it's been moved, it's seconded. All those in favour? Aye. Against?
Aye.
Carried. Thanks very much, Craig, for your presentation. And we'll break for lunch now folks, and have half an hour, so I'll be back about 1:25. Thank you.